Welcome to Reiki Women. This is a project that myself and a couple of other women have put together to give a voice to Reiki women all around the world. And I would like to introduce you. Oh, my name's Bronwyn Logan, and I would like to introduce you to two of the women who I have been working with on putting this project together. And we're going to have a little discussion today about one of the subjects that we'd like to talk to women all around the world about. So it's a really simple one, but it's a great place to start from. So first off, I'd like to introduce the person next to me, and that is Michaela. Hi, Michaela, Daystar.
Hey, Bronwyn. So great to finally be in this circle, recording this very first episode of Reiki Women and opening this conversation with us and with everybody who will be joining us in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other lovely woman we've been working with is Carrie Varela. Hi, Carrie.
Hi there. I am also very happy to be here and just really excited about listening and learning from both of you and from women all over the world who are inspired by the practice of Reiki. And I know it's going to be just a really nurturing circle that we can create within each other and support each other in our practice and in our experience of Reiki.
Absolutely. So the way that we've put this together is we've created a couple of questions that we'd like to ask women around the world. And we'd also like to find out more about them, whatever else they'd like to say, but we have a place we'd like to start. And so we thought we'd start with that ourselves. I would like to put the question maybe to you, Carrie. What drew you to the practice?
Great question. And I think we could all probably spend a lot of time talking about our Reiki journey. And I find it really fascinating to hear about other people's stories of what drew them to Reiki. And so I'm happy to share my own. I found Reiki in college. One of my friends did a Reiki training and she wanted a test subject to practice Reiki on. And so we went to a park one day and she gave me some Reiki and I really felt it. It was profound. And I kind of put it on my to-do list. Like I want to do a Reiki training one day and learn more about. And so fast forward a few years after college, I connected with a Reiki practitioner. And in my first Reiki treatment, I had just an experience of inner lightness. So I had this maybe this inner darkness inside of me and it lifted. And I don't know, it's hard to describe the exact word, but I guess I would say enchanted. I felt very enchanted by Reiki. I was like, what the heck is this? I felt more balanced. I felt more clarity within myself and maybe something that I had yet to experience, like feeling that inner clarity and lightness yet in my life. And so the Reiki treatment stuck with me for years, just that feeling. That was quite profound and inspired me to train and learn Reiki. And so I, took my first training and then got completely obsessed. Went all the way through my master training within the first year of really finding Reiki. And then a couple of years later, opened my own practice. So in terms of what draws me to Reiki, I still feel this kind of sense of wonder and enchantment around Reiki. What is this beautiful energy that gives me this greater clarity, a lightness of being? But ultimately, I think one of the main things that drew me to Reiki is I felt intuitively, almost from my first experience with Reiki, is that Reiki could help me solve an inner dilemma that I was having, was that I felt like there was a deeper meaning and purpose to my life. And I had absolutely no clue, no clue how to access that deeper meaning and deeper purpose. I just intuitively felt it inside of me. And from the moment of my first Reiki training, I really felt that Reiki was the tool that was going to help me access that deeper meaning and purpose for my life. And so that was just, I can't describe how grateful I am to Reiki for that, because I don't really feel like there's any other tool out there that I've been able to find in my 15 years as a healing arts practitioner that is the same as
Nope.
Reiki. Yeah. So today I can say that Reiki has guided me to beautiful things in my life, led me through really different challenging seasons in my life. And I'm just ever growing in the experience of Reiki. But what draws me to the practice really currently today is more about finding balance and centeredness rather than having like explosive, like spiritual epiphany, which I think at times like that was kind of drew me to the practice of Reiki as well. But now it's more about balance, centering. I still feel an incredible gratitude to have this ability to place my hands with the intention of healing both on myself and others. And so I give Reiki to myself almost every day. And that's also been really fulfilling for me.
Thank you.
Of course. Well, Michaela, I'd love to hear about what drew you to Reiki and share with us your story.
Yeah. I love listening to you, Carrie. And, I've asked and had this sort of conversation with a lot of practitioners over the years, and it's always strikes me the points of similarity and the points of difference, like in our path to this practice. I was drawn to Reiki through crisis, a period in my life and my career being in, very stuck, kind of difficult place, and just really using a lot of unhealthy like coping strategies for working through all of that, and just really was at, what you might call a rock bottom place in my life. And, one of the things that can happen when we're in a place like that is that we can become incredibly open and receptive to the medicine that we need, right? Like there's times when we shut ourselves off from the medicine. And I think I had been doing that for a long time, really closing off to things that were good for me and opening up to things that were bad for me. But there was this particular space that I ended up in where it was kind of like, it's up or down from here. And something in me was like, I got to find the up. And in that mindset, I guess, a number of things came into my life. Codependence Anonymous was the first one, saved my life. And Reiki was one of them. And it was one of those things where I heard somebody talking about Reiki, like in another room somewhere where I was. And it was like, I don't know what that is, but sign me up. It was like that feeling of like, I'm just compelled by whatever that is that you're talking about. And when I first did the training, to be perfectly honest, and similar to you, Carrie, I just really went in and did levels 1, 2, and 3 all within a year. And to be perfectly honest, I think that I really related to it almost as a positive distraction from all of the crises. I was working through those things. I was improving myself, improving my life, improving my relationships. But I think I really was drawn to the idea of Reiki as something that I could do for and to other people that would be doing good in the world, that would distract me from these difficult things. The trainings I was in and we didn't focus a lot on self-practice. I wasn't paying a lot of attention to self-practice. It was really all about how can I, help other people and do good for other people, because that'll make me feel better. And if the people around me are feeling better, then I can feel better. It's just classic codependence. And that's how I approached it for quite some time. And even inside of that limited mindset, it was a beautiful and miraculous experience, right? It was those moments of, I think some of the words that you used, Carrie, were really, really beautiful. Like those miraculous moments of kind of relaxing and opening up to something outside of the immediate fog or outside of the day-to-day experience, something that just touches that mysterious place that is always there, but is so easy to ignore. And that really fed me, something that I hadn't had before. And it really kept me, going to the next class and doing the next practitioner circle, and, got me to start thinking about what if I could do this as, my work. At the time I was working at a university, I was running a social justice leadership program, which I loved, I was passionate about, but there was this way in which so much of what I was able to do in that capacity was about teaching people what to do, like that external, like doing, what to do to change the world, which is incredibly important. But it wasn't really what my skills were, and it wasn't what my interest was. And we weren't able to create a space for students to tend to their own being, to tend to the traumas that had happened to them that made them care about social justice in the first place, to understand who they were inside of this complex world, to be still, to like pause and give themselves some space. And so, it started to feel like the world of Reiki and this world of this work that I was doing were not compatible. They were like incomplementary to each other. And that was really painful because I loved both of them. And it made me feel like I had to make a choice in terms of which direction to go. Ultimately, though, when I started relating to Reiki from the perspective of self-practice, which was when I found the International House of Reiki and Bronwyn and Franz, and really started to understand what Reiki is about, that healing is an outcome that can happen when we practice Reiki, but the purpose and the point of practicing Reiki is to embody the precepts in our life and to be a different kind of human, or perhaps a more of the way that humans are meant to be, perhaps. My relationship to it completely changed. And what I realized was that first and foremost was to kind of work on get myself straight, right? That self-practice. So I really learned to apply them to myself, to back off from more of just the palm healing, and to really work on, working with the precepts, working with the breath, working with my own embodiment. And eventually that brought me back around to wanting to work with people, wanting to in particular support people who do want to be engaged with social justice, who do want to improve the world, to do something, and need to cultivate that space of stillness and wellness inside of themselves so that they can show up as an embodiment of the precepts in those spaces. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm doing that through my business, which is called Heartscapes, and here in Central California. So I am grateful for that, because it means that the three of us get to work together and do this storytelling project.
Thanks, Michaela. So what drew me to the practice of Reiki? Initially, I'm not sure. I think if I look at my life, I had heard about the system of Reiki when I was quite young. Quite young, younger than now. I was probably, I don't know, maybe 20 or something like that. And I remember being quite intrigued by this thing that I'd heard about. And I think it was sort of just coming to Australia at that time. And I did actually meet up with someone who I saw that they'd advertised as a Reiki practitioner, but it wasn't really Reiki. I'm not really sure what that person was doing, but it was like I had to fill in all these multiple choice questions, and I have no idea. So I'm not really sure what that was, but it did sort of put me off it for a while. Then I went to Holland, and I was living in Holland, and my best friend from Australia came and visited me. And when she arrived, she said, "Oh, guess what? I've done this amazing thing called Reiki." So it's a little bit like Carrie, in that her friend introduced her, right? I was like, okay, what's that? And she's like, "Well, give me your feet." And she would just, we'd sit there and she'd just do Reiki on my feet. And I thought, oh, this is just really lovely. So then fast forward. So I didn't do any any of it in Holland. I actually didn't see any in Holland at that time that I remember, but I did start getting involved in things like meditation. What drew me has always been, I think, at the core of myself. And that is this interest to, and I think you guys sort of said that a bit as well, this thing about there's something in me that is more than the everyday go to the work, go to the shop, go home, go out with friends experience. And I knew that there was this something inside of me and I wanted to touch that, but I didn't know how to touch that or find that. And it also was, I think part of that was balance, as some of you guys have noted as well. So trying to find a balance in my life. And, I looked for that in all sorts of places. Partnerships, Michaela, codependence, definitely there in that. Looking outside of myself. I think it's a very natural thing for us to do if we're not directed in our society that we can look inside ourselves. So, looking outside of myself for balance and support. I had a choppy childhood and I was loved, but it was difficult. And, just trying to be an adult in a world where I didn't really know possibly how to be an adult. So, that I think there's, I think that's an ongoing challenge, isn't it? So, yeah, I think there are a lot of things that I found missing in my education as a child, emotional education. So I was definitely looking for something. Then I went to India. So when I went to India, I was astounded by that country, so different to, the countries that I'd lived in. I remember someone saying to me, what religion are you? And I said, I'm not religious. And they were really upset for me, and I do sort of get that now. Not that the system of Reiki is a religion, but it's about this having a practice that looks at the inner you and works with the inner you. And it was something that I was looking for. So I did come across the system of Reiki, specifically in Nepal, actually, and studied it there. And that sparked, like you guys, it sparked in me this desire to do Reiki 1, Reiki 2, Reiki 3. And it was something that I knew when I started. It was something that I wanted to do. So it was something that was outside religion, which I found good for me. And it was something that gave me a practice that I could do for myself. And as well, I could help other people. It just seemed sort of quite miraculous. And so, yeah, I practiced that, and over the years have been very interested, probably in a very practical sense, the system of Reiki. So I've been interested in, research and history. And that's given me a life that I never thought I would live when I was younger. I never thought that I would be teaching or practicing or writing about the system of Reiki and living a life that actually gave me some form of guidelines. And like you guys said, that precepts taking as something to, that they hold me in place. So if I'm feeling that I'm worried or angry or whatever, it is something that I can go back to and I can think about, and I can think about all the things that I have discussed with all my Reiki friends and students about what does it mean to worry or to be angry or to not feel compassionate, or how to bring more of that into my life and try to be a better person. So yeah, I think it really is, it is about living. And my experience, my complete entire whole experience of life has now goes through the filter of the system of Reiki. And I still mess up, make mistakes, but I have something which I can use as my guiding light to remind me how to be better and how to fix things and how to communicate better with people about all of that. So yeah, it's been a wonderful, amazing journey, and that I am still on. So thank you for sharing with me today, everyone. And I hope to hear lots of other stories from people too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be really lovely and enlightening to really weave these stories together, right? And to look for those places of commonality, like the three of us had places of overlap and those places of uniqueness. And, I really look at this as an opportunity to tell a larger story about Reiki, both in terms of, what it is, where it comes from, what it's meant to be from its origins, and what it means to us living today in 2022 in different parts of the world with all of the things that we're navigating in this time and place, right? How does this, as you say, help us to, to land in ourselves and to be better people inside of everything that we are faced with as women and as Reiki community. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
I think it's funny too, because I started and I'm always trying to give like my short form of like why I was drawn to Reiki, because you can't talk about all of the experiences after like 15 years of doing this practice. I just can't talk about it all. But it's just funny now, like after hearing your stories, it's like, Michaela, I totally also came to Reiki in the midst of a divorce. And I also had another career as in environmental science and now and actually studied social justice too quite a bit in college. And now it's like I feel like at first like it was a real schism, like I left that corporate job to start my Reiki practice, but now I feel like this more intentional like weaving those things back into my practice. That's just felt really sweet, because for a long time that felt like a real deep divide inside of myself. And then I also went to India and traveled there for 3 months and just had my heart just totally wide open about the beauty of that land. And feel like so much of Reiki has also helped me heal my childhood and different things. So it's just interesting. It's like we can highlight different stories, but maybe if we really like understood the whole mosaic, maybe there is just this like, I don't know, way that Reiki calls to us in times of crisis, in times of purpose, to manifest a deeper purpose in our life. And it takes us, sometimes on unique paths, but also well trodden roads by other people seeking this same beautiful knowledge.
Yeah, people have often said to me when they know that I practice the system of Reiki, and they've met other people, and they're like, oh, what is that, like a little bit weird, is it a bit, they're a bit suspicious or weird because they don't know really what it is, and maybe they're like, oh, I met someone but they were a bit funny or whatever. And I said, well, you know what, I always say that people who come to the system of Reiki are people who are messed up. We're all messed up anyway, but you know what I mean? Like when we're messed up, that's when we look for stuff to make us unmessed up. And so something like this is absolutely amazing because it does help us and it helps other people as well. So that's why we're always working on ourselves, right? So it's a constant thing. But on the other hand, I think the system of Reiki is this, Reiki, spiritual energy, is this innate thing. So it's not, I think it's just that when we go through crises, for example, that we might go outside looking for stuff, but there is a point where we have to face inside. And when we look inside, it's there.
Yeah. Well, and one of the most amazing gifts of studying Reiki from the perspective of its origins is really understanding that it is about what you just said about remembering that innate spiritual energy that we just simply are at all times, never have not been.
Yeah.
However, we don't always, we forget at some point, we're not conscious of it. And so when we look at it from that perspective, there's this incredible opportunity to not only connect in with Reiki as a tradition and as a practice, but also to become more deeply connected to, other practices from our own lineages that share that same goal of being more of who we are. So I have found that in practicing Reiki from that perspective, I've gotten so much more connected with my Celtic heritage and with the nature-based spiritual practices of, my own family lineage, because I'm seeing these points of connection and I'm engaging it, with a practice that's from another part of the world, but that has these like capital T truths that are the same as the things that my people practiced. And so, that's one of the things that I'd really love to be able to explore on this podcast is, where are the places where Reiki, when we really relate to it from that point of just the truth of what life is, where are the places that we find those common points of practice from traditions all over the world, right? That get to express themselves in beautifully unique ways that are shaped from a particular time and place, and that share these points of commonality. And that, for me, in my experience, has helped me feel more connected to the human family when I see those capital T truths show up in different places through the lens of Reiki.
Yeah. And especially, I know that is our subject, Reiki women, but I really want to hear about women because, the thing is that in our more recent histories, women have been wiped from history in many ways. And, you talk about your Celtic history, women in that culture. It's very interesting. And I'd love to hear more about that historically and from a spiritual perspective. It'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. And, to your other point of people relating sometimes to this being a strange thing to practice, I often feel like half of our job is just being willing to be weird in public. And so may this be a space where people can come and be weird in public and maybe discover that we're not so weird, because this is actually just how we all, on a certain level relate to each other and to life. Putting whatever language we put around it.
I was just thinking about that because, like a lot of people have put like the word magic to the system of Reiki and make it into something that it's actually not. But the word magic can be applied because life is magical, which is sort of what you're saying, Michaela, like it is weird and wonderful and amazing in how it is. Yeah. And how sometimes we refuse to see that, and we want to make it about, my work, my home, my, the gym, whatever it is, but life is amazing, and opening our eyes to that and seeing the beauty and wonder of that is, I think, a part of accepting the system of Reiki in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess what I could say along this topic, it's just, I feel like, I've studied Reiki through a lot of different lenses, after 15 years. And I'm just now kind of really diving into a deeper knowledge and study of traditional Reiki. And concurrent to my Reiki practice, I also was a yoga teacher and am a yoga teacher. And so I've always found that, like, to me, like, to have what has been balanced. I'm a Gemini, so I'm my own devil's advocate sometimes, but like that this dual system for me, like to study Reiki and understand energy through that lens, but then also have this really complementary practice of yoga. Like they're my yin and yang of each other, and really have been in my whole adult life. But what has been really cool, when I studied with Franz and did a 21-day meditation on the elements. And so in yoga, there's the idea of the 5 elements, and a similar concept within Shintoism. And like to find that link has been really so meaningful to me. And it's been a way for me to not just link yoga and Reiki together, but also link in my when I was 6, I went camping with my family, and I was like sitting by a river, and I just had this moment where I was like, I love the earth, and I just love her, and I love nature, and I want to be here and make my life be about defending nature and making sure, protecting future generations, and I just had that feeling inside myself, and it's something that has also always guided me in my life, but like kind of bringing them together in a way of like, I can now bring my love and appreciation of nature into both my spiritual life and to like the work that I bring to the world. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I can't really capture like how meaningful that is unless saying it's like magic because it is like, it's just so beautiful, and I don't know how many times like my experience of energy has come from nature. Like I remember one time I went to Hawaii and I was like at a point of real total burnout in my life. And I was very fortunate that I had a chance to go to Hawaii and like sort that stuff out. But like I went on a long hike and you land on this beach, and I spent like 2 days on the beach, and there was something about the waves crashing and just that rhythm that was everything for me. It just like refilled my cup. It recharged me. It was like, oh, need to remember this renewable energy that is in nature, but it's also inside of me too. And it's just, I don't know, it's just so cool. I feel like that spark or connection happens with Reiki, not just for myself, but with my clients and my students. And so that's always so rewarding.
Absolutely.
When we practice Joshin Kokyoho, breathing down into the deep belly and then breathing out, to me, it is the perfect reminder of that. The flow of everything that exists out there is also the flow of everything that exists in us.
Yeah.
I love you bringing in that child, it made me think of me as a child and how nature impacts children so much. And yet we don't talk about that, and we forget that possibly. Beautiful.
Well, and that's why I love, talking about it using the term magic, right? And I think that maybe the rejection of using that term comes from not wanting to view Reiki as something where we just, use a symbol or we say a mantra, we snap our fingers or relay our hands. And just because we've been attuned, now all of a sudden, like magically, healing is happening without our effort. Right. And I think that like, we can turn away from that and we can say that like magic is collaboration with the unseen. Magic is collaboration with life and the world, the way that it's operating below the surface, inside of us and outside of us, exactly the same. And that requires effort and work and practice, right? It's not just that, oh, you're attuned to Reiki and now all of a sudden, it's just turned on, without effort, right? It's like, no, it's always been with you, right? But in order to be in that collaboration where synchronicities can happen and things can open up and things can shift and relax and things that seem miraculous can happen in front of your eyes, like there's certain amount of effort and collaboration and practice that needs to be, mutual, all right, that needs to come from both of us. And that the more that we give ourselves to that, the more effortless it can feel, right? It doesn't have to feel like work, but there's a gesturing towards the miraculous. There's a gesture towards magic that is required of us in order to collaborate in that way. And so, this practice gives us a structure for that. It gives us simple, accessible practices that open ourselves up to that pathway to magic. And magic, in terms of the old ways of understanding our relationship to the world. And that's our birthright, right? Like we're born with that. Right. We do it when we're babies and when we're children, when we're 6 and we're sitting by the river and we're like, I love the earth. Right. That's a spell. Right. Like that's a moment of magical collaboration with the world. And as adults, we need more structure around it. Right. To help us to remember. Yeah. And so it's just amazing and brilliant that over and over again across time and place, humans find a way to put a structure around magic so that we can remember. Because we'll always forget if we don't do that, right? So may we be children again
Yeah.
Right? Willing to collaborate with life in these ways that feel miraculous, but are really just actually how it is.
Yeah.
Like it's just how it is.
Absolutely. It's been
Beautiful.
absolutely delightful chatting to you all. And I can't wait to get to the next question. If anyone would like to join the conversation, we would love recordings of your journey, what drew you to the system of Reiki. And you can do that yourself if you like, or we can do it for you. So stay in touch, and we'll see you on Facebook or YouTube very soon.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Okay, guys. See you later.